The title of this video, let's say, Beyond the Mirror of Betrayal. Development. I often notice in my professional practice with couples, or even in individual sessions dealing with relationship issues, that when a romantic relationship starts to show signs of strain, when one partner becomes emotionally distant, less present, distracted, the first assumption that many women, it's a bit more common among women, tend to make is that of infidelity. This is kind of an instinctive, quick response to what's happening. Is this the famous female sixth sense at work? Well, actually, this instinctive assumption partly reflects, I would say, deeply rooted cultural narratives. Movies, novels, and TV series have widely portrayed the love triangle as the main explanation for relationship breakdowns and women's emotional suffering, often with some melodramatic notes about conflict between women over love. And our interpretations of romantic dynamics are strongly influenced by narrative patterns that we absorb every day. In reality, things can turn out to be more complex and more ordinary than betrayal, less like a novel, less like a Turkish TV drama. Or, when we dig deeper, alternative scenarios emerge. Here, I'll mention just 3 of them, and the third one will surprise you. No, that's not true. It won't surprise you. The first scenario is that of unspoken dissatisfaction. That is, the partner might be genuinely dissatisfied with certain aspects of the relationship but lacks the emotional or perhaps even cultural tools to express this discomfort in a constructive way. After all, the ability to express needs and frustrations without blaming others, without starting arguments, is a rare skill. Second hypothesis, an incompatible emotional style. Because it's not uncommon for it to turn out that the partner has always had an emotional style marked by less expressiveness, less physical affection, and a lower tendency toward romantic gestures. These traits, which were initially downplayed or even idealized, like, I like his brooding side, he's not all about putting on a show, or he doesn't just think about sex, he cares about feelings and family, eventually become sources of frustration over time. Then there's a third scenario, which is somewhat connected to the second, that I would call late recognition. This is when, after the initial rush of infatuation has faded, the woman starts to wake up from the phase of idealization and begins to see more clearly the traits in her partner that were always there, but that she hadn't fully noticed before. Why do these alternative interpretations come up less often than the idea of cheating? Well, the answer requires an honest reflection on how hard it is to face our own responsibilities. Accepting that your partner might be dissatisfied could mean having to examine the dynamics of the relationship and ourselves in ways that aren't pleasant. Admitting that you chose a partner whose attachment style is incompatible with your own needs actually raises questions about your own judgment. Recognizing that you noticed but ignored important signs for a long time calls your self-awareness into question. And for many adults, it's extremely hard to face negative feedback about themselves. The idea of betrayal, as painful as it is, paradoxically offers the advantage of placing the source of the problem entirely outside of ourselves. And what can we say about that process of perceptual saturation, let's call it that, where, after a certain period, behaviors from your partner that you had long tolerated or ignored suddenly become unbearable? What at first might have seemed unimportant or even charming can, over time, become a source of deep dissatisfaction. This is a phenomenon that is further amplified by the human tendency to minimize differences in the early stages of a relationship, when the chemistry of falling in love leads us to see the other person through rose-colored glasses. Then there's also the issue of gender differences, so what I'm talking about isn't completely absent in husbands toward their wives. Men also display similar patterns, although sometimes with different expressions, influenced by social expectations and models of emotional communication that are often, as they say, gender-specific. As we know, thanks to psychologist Terence Real and his work on male relational dynamics, men tend to express relational dissatisfaction in different ways, often through emotional withdrawal or by immersing themselves in work, but they face similar challenges to women when it comes to recognizing and communicating their deep emotional needs. In my practice, I have seen couples profoundly transform their relationships when they are able to move beyond the automatic assumption of infidelity to explore the more subtle and complex dynamics that are actually influencing their bond. These factors, moreover, can coexist with an actual betrayal and may even have triggered it, because as Andreotti used to say, thinking the worst is a sin, but you're usually right. See you next time.